Hello everyone, my name is Paulina and today I'm going to talk about the religion and the cultural values in France, comparing these values with Mexico. My thesis statement is that religion does not define the cultural values of a country, since Mexico and France are considered Christian countries and they have different values, also referring that Catholicism is part of Christianity. So I am starting with the religion in France. As the table shows, between 63 and 66% of the population are Christian, and from that percentage, 83% are Roman Catholics and 14% are Protestants, and the rest are Lutherans and Reformed Catholics. Around 24% of the population are non-religious, and most of them are young people. Also, the Islam is the second most practiced religion in France, and most of them come from North Africa, especially from countries colonized by France like Morocco, Algeria, and Tunisia. We also have to take in consideration the rise of immigrants in France, like the past years, sorry. Apart from the Islam and Christians, there are other minority religious groups, but I'm not going to mention them. So for what I have read, it seems like in the next years the Islam is going to rise, but they will also have to deal with the problems that have happened before in France, like the terrorist acts and radicalism. So that's a point of we have to take in consideration. And super fast, I'm going to mention the percentages of each religion in Mexico. Also, as you can see in the graph, 89.3% of the population are Catholics, 8% are Protestants, and 2.5% are other religions. So that's why France and Mexico are considered as Christians countries, but I think it's kind of obvious for everyone that, of course, Mexico has a higher percentage of Catholic population. Also, I would like to mention that the graph of religion in Mexico is from 2010. The INEGI is like the most recent data I could find of Mexico, like good data. Okay, so to continue, I will talk about the Hofstede cultural values of France, and then I'm going to compare it with Mexico. We know there are 6 cultural values, and I'm going to focus on individualism, masculinity, long-term orientation, and indulgence. The reason why I choose to talk about those values is because those are the ones that have a higher difference between these countries. I am going to start with individualism. France has a score of 71. This shows that they are in an individualist society. This means that French people are raised to be emotionally independent, and they are supposed to take care of oneself and one's family. Something interesting that happens with France is that they have a high score on power distance too. And apparently the only countries that have this unique situation are Belgium, Spain, and northern Italy. This leads to a contradiction, since the fact that France have a high power distance mentioned that children are emotionally dependent on their parents. So this combination is what makes France unique, because they are emotionally close to their family in comparison with other individualistic countries such as the UK, that has a score of 89 in the individualistic dimension and 35 in power distance. So you can see that the UK has a higher individualist score than the power distance one. In the case of Mexico, with a score of 30, is considered as a collectivistic society, which means that we are committed as members of a group in close long term, being these groups a family, extended family, and other relationships. The Mexican society fosters strong relationships, like the employer-employee relationship, that are perceived in moral terms, like a family link, and actually these relations can influence if you get a promotion or not. So this is like an example. To continue with masculinity, we can see that France is closer to be feminine than masculine, with a score of 43, And a reflection of the score could be their welfare system, the 35 hours working week, 5 weeks of holidays per year, and the focus on the quality of life. But again, we can find something interesting with Friends. That is that the upper class scores feminine while the working class score masculine, and this characteristic has not been found in other countries. This could be because the working class is constantly fighting to improve their way of living, but this is only I think of like what I'm thinking. This is not something that the report says. In the case of Mexico, the score is 69 on this dimension, meaning that we have a masculine society, and the premise of a masculine society is live in order to work. So there are a lot of competition to success. The population solve conflicts by fighting them out, and I think this is something that can be reflected in Mexico, and probably we all have seen this. It seems like we are working all the time, we want to improve all the time. We know there are a lot of competition to get a position in the work, or even in the university, we want to get the best grade. So, this is what happens in Mexico in comparison to France. For the long-term orientation, France has a score of 63. This makes them pragmatic. People believes that truth depends very much on situation, context, and time. For them, it is easier to adapt traditions to changing conditions. They tend to save money, invest, and they are more perseverant in achieving results. In the other hand, Mexico, with a low score of 24, Mexican society focuses on achieving quick results. They have a lot of respect for traditions, and it's hard for us to save money for the future. The last dimension that I'm going to talk about is indulgence. France scores in the middle with 48 points. I assume that they have a middle control on their desires and impulses, and in combination with their score on uncertainty avoidance, this implies that French are less relaxed and enjoy life less than is commonly assumed. Actually, in the happiness indices, they do not score that high. In comparison with Mexico, with a 97 score, Mexican society is willing to realize their impulses and desires to enjoy life and have fun. Mexicans have a positive attitude and have a tendency towards optimism. In conclusion, I would like to reaffirm what I said in my thesis statement, that is that religion does not define the scores in these Hofstede dimensions, cultural dimensions. We can see that even though Mexico and France have similarities in religion, they are very different in at least 4 dimensions that were the ones that I explained. And I hope this presentation helped you to understand better and get to know better France. Thank you.